another notion. This one of now. Well, I'd spent some time in with the religions, and I still remember what you call the Lord's Prayer. Let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, I've now understood from my awareness of awareness gained on the path on with the new presentation that in fact all the furious prayers and supplications of the religionists is because the will of God is about to be done on earth as they do it as they say it in their prayers. So when this will is about to be effected, their prayers are loudest again, and they are begging and cursing, been forgotten by God and all the like. They even shame the God that is not catering to their needs. So I want to ask this: what is in conformity with this axiom, as above, so below? So what is the real guide's own will, or anything that should be done on that they want the people of earth, to be engaged in?
Okay, so we are doing what we're doing, and the old idea is above, so below. This is an idea in creation. So as we'll use the religious idea, and that is people long to go to their heaven, which is really a designated heaven. It's a little better than the FEMA camps here, okay? And so again, after they die, after the so-called death thing, this is their promise after death. They go to what is so-called above. This is all in creation, because life is an isness. Our reference is the real universe is where there is none of that, because it's an isness. You recognize it. Also, the old idea, God has a plan for you, and this implies with so above, so below. In other words, you're just going to go into the astral or mental realms and areas that are a lot nicer, but they're still part of the prison. They're still part of the matrix. And so the idea that God has a plan for you, this is what they promote. People promote this. Well, you're seeing God's plan. You're living it on earth. This is God's plan. You see, that's why when people are experiencing God's plan, which is the destruction of everything here, they're praying to God. It's like, okay, well, where is God? Why aren't you fixing this? Well, it's like it's wake up time. You're living God's plan, the one that you promote to others. You're thinking that it's something else, but this is really it. And that's why God is not appearing, because the Kalam God Grog is very happy with the control and everything that's going on here with the destruction of the earth and parts of creation, etc., to keep people unaware, because people are becoming more aware. That's why we're here. So people are living God's plan. They're actually living it. And so this is a wake up for them too. So this becomes very interesting how we creatively present this out there to let people know how deceived they've become by these so-called gods of man, who are just really conquerors, like Adolf Hitler and Stalin and Genghis Khan and just all the other nonsense that's gone on this world in many areas. And like we've been dealing with the Queen of Orion and things like this, it's just all nonsense. And it's time for a new view. And so those that have the courage to step up, this is what we're doing. So yes, you're seeing God's plan in action. The Kalam God is fine with everything. And people keep praying. What they do is they keep supporting the unconsciousness and the demise of their own planet and everything else in their life, but they don't see it yet. So this is where we let the world know. And at the same time, we take all the criticism and abuse from it and deal with it. So it's a very interesting challenge, isn't it? Yes, thank you for asking, Charles.
We're going to go a little bit political here, Duane. I think we talk about everything here. But this is life. Now, the ideas of freedom or the lack thereof are hinted upon in the political systems of this world. Capitalism is based on the idea of free enterprise. And the free enterprise system is based or supposed to be based on the personal mobilization of human and financial resources without outside interference. And this is in stark contrast to the social or communist system, which is a welfare state, but with state restrictions, laws, controls, limitations. Now, could the capitalist system be termed a forerunner of the real freedom we hope to achieve, given that those who live in this system have a better understanding and practice of what freedom entails? So can we conclude that capitalism is in a guise, even in a diluted form, a forerunner of the real freedom we hope to achieve?
Well, you can use that as an idea to motivate yourself to see that everything here is implied and not an actuality. So in other words, because of how really rough and bad it's gotten, here I'm using the word bad, but it is not good. Yes, this should motivate you to see more, because again, if you compare it to the Indians that lived with nature in their teepees and did what they did every day, they didn't have a 9-to-5 boring job. They just did what they did, and they loved the environment. They didn't destroy it, etc. So again, you compare that to the capitalism that we've created, that to where the politicians are constantly making their funny speeches and saying that, oh, you have these great freedoms or whatever, etc. We compare the two. So which one does or doesn't make sense? But on the one hand, you've got the Indians, and they live very comfortable. Well, again, it wasn't always comfortable, but they had to do a lot of work, but they enjoyed it. I like hard work. Doesn't matter. So they did what they did to survive. At the same time, was it so that they were encouraged enough, you might say, because they believed in their spirits and their things like this, which is fine. A lot of them traveled out of their body, had experiences, but were they really motivated to get past their comfortable earth life? So now we move into the social structure of what we have today. And for a while, it seemed like a lot of fun. It's like, oh, we have all these things. We have museums and restaurants and movie theaters, and we wear nice clothes, and we drive cool cars and all these things. Now we move into this. But as we get older and we start to look at the world and we start to discover, hey, it isn't what we thought it was. Okay, so again, it's up to the individual to decide and be motivated. So yes, there's two sides and more to each issue or each whatever is created here, so it can be one way or the other. But for me, with what is taking place, it really motivates me to especially do something while I'm here to take on the challenge, because it more so allows me to focus on this reality. And as I focused on it, I see and become more aware, and I see the essential of certain things motivating me to do that. So, but I don't need the good, bad, or the ugly to do that anymore. I finally got the idea. But this is where the society that has been created it can help to motivate, because all of a sudden people are having problems and diseases and whatever. They're looking for answers. So they're finally looking for something past their comfort zone of their personal side. So I would say that is a benefit in its own way. But at the same time, what is taking place on the world is a big deterioration. And if people simply keep agreeing to it, then it will go that way. So again, yes, and the freedoms that are talked about with the politicians, those are implied, because there can be no freedom here. Because here's the idea. It's like I've mainly worked for myself most of my life. And so, yes, the government is saying, okay, well, you can have your own business and you can do whatever you want. Realistically, that's not so. And when you do have your own business, you've got all kinds of rules and regulations and stipulations to abide by. So what they do is they really control what you're doing. So it's all implied. It's not a real freedom. And people think, well, I have the freedom of my own business. No, you don't. You're in the prison yard like everybody else. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as being independent here, working for yourself and surviving for yourself, because we're all in the same world. And so that's a wake up too. So again, there's many ways to see it. And I would say, again, with what's going on in the world, people are scrambling around, especially on the real side. I see them. And, all they have to do is stop and, take a little time to pay attention, especially with what we're presenting, which makes sense. And so they can get past all this nonsense and all the agitation that we're going through here, because it's huge agitation now in the physical realm, with the consciousness that has been created, with the Wi-Fi, with the chemtrails, with the nanotechnology, with the food we eat, just everything. The vibrations are very coarse. People are agitated and stressed, etc. So again, it is an opportunity, but to look to the political systems that govern things, no, there's nothing there. They've been set up to control. That's their intent. They use the idea of freedom as a ploy to get people to agree. That's all. They just want that agreement, and once they got it, they tap line them. So, no, there can be no freedoms here. And even when things are wonderful on Earth, okay, and pure and pristine, there still can be no freedom here, because this is not the idea. It's just the first step to a bigger wake up. So, yes, Charles, thank you for asking.
Thank you, Duane. The world is in search of love as the panacea for all ills. And true love, they say, is love without strings attached, without conditions, restrictions, limitations. Now, it is a foregone conclusion, I think, that this world can never know true love. But what about the true love talked about in the new presentation? Does it have some strings attached? Maybe some hidden strings that we cannot see, we cannot imagine? This idea of love as the world knows it, and true love, can we have a clear-cut delineation and assurance that this love is as true and pure as the love of this world that we criticize?
The difference between love, L-O-V-E, which is mainly sensations, and real love is like the air you breathe. Okay? Are there strings attached to your breathing? Is there anything there? Is there any intent? Is there anything you can consider? And no matter what you consider, that's not it, because you're just breathing the air, right? And that's like the isness. No, there are no restrictions with the whole of life, because that's how the whole of life is, you see. And the love idea that people refer to, sharing and giving to each other, is really based upon mainly sensations, okay? And so people want to feel comfortable, they want to be liked, they want to be loved, they want to feel cozy. That's the personal self, which is understandable. That's fine too. You can have both. But the idea would be eventually you wake up to what comes first, what's more important, just like you say, strings attached or what have you, intent. And that's a decision each person makes. And some people, and I've known many, and I've been with many, I've been taught by many, I've taught many, etc. And most of them, they want to cater to their personal side, and their personal relations, they come first. In other words, I don't give up any of that, but what comes first with me is what makes sense. And the whole of life simply makes sense, like the air we breathe. You can think or you can identify with breathing as real love because you're doing it freely of your own free will. You're deciding to keep breathing, and at the same time, while you're breathing, if the body's working okay, there are no restrictions. If there were any restrictions, it would be with your body that you couldn't breathe. You see, there would be the restrictions, but the air that's breathable is still there. You see, so that's really an easy way to do it. And the sun shining is another way. There are no restrictions. It just shines. All these demonstrations are right in front of us. But again, the personal self, because it has its body and it has the four other bodies that are encased within it, you might say. That's one way to look at it. And it has an alarm system, which implies emotions and reactions, etc., feelings. And so we, as we've discovered these things with ourselves, we've exaggerated them, haven't we? You got marketing ploy of every type of feeling and sensation out there. Well, the reptilians love that too, because again, that's what they live off of, is the sensations and feelings, which is fine. When you start to do the new you, you still can have those same feelings and sensations, but then all of a sudden, it's more so focused with the overall reality of, the whole of life more so than just the parts of it. So, again, there's fine lines there. It's like going from California to Nevada. Is there a big line there somewhere, like as we look on a map? No, there's no line. It's just a gradual moving into there. And so we each do this. But again, each person decides what comes first, the personal life or something real that makes sense that will, take care of everything. That's what I call the real cure. And so, it's very interesting. So again, it's like the air you're breathing. There's no restrictions, and that's what everything that I'm creating implies. It's a reference to this reality for each individual to recognize for themselves. And it's not even about the real guides. They are themselves a reference to the guidance, okay? But it's your life. You decide if you want to stand real and real freedom. And for the most part, this scares people because, again, they're so used to restrictions. They're so used to their own personal restrictions of ideas. And this is where the comments come back to me. It's like, well, where is the love, Duane? Well, I'm not sending out those vibes to people because what I'm doing is I'm presenting something that refers to the true reality life is and allowing people, hey, you decide if this is for you. But if you want to be captured and be a member and doused by, restrictions and guidelines and all these rules and regulations, which many people do. They really do. They feel better if they're told what to do and restricted. And then it's like, oh, gee, now I feel like I belong here, you see? And so I don't do that. So I'm kind of like the air that we breathe. It's like, there are no restrictions. And when people don't see any restrictions, it's like going into outer space. You're not going to see signs that say turn right, turn left here, or whatever. You're not going to see anything because it's a recognition of where you're at. And this is the next step, is recognition from the personal emotions and ideas that we create here that seem so comfortable. So Real freedom is really a position without any of that, to recognize the wholeness of life, which is much better. But then again, it's demonstrated most people would rather have their restrictions and their ideas. So they will look at what I'm presenting and say, oh, that's a bunch of baloney. It's all hocus pocus, or it's a cult or something like that, because they can frame it in their mind any way at all. But really, it's like the air we breathe. It's like the sun shining. This is really what it is. And so again, yeah, each one of us, we know this, Charles. We decide our restrictions, or we decide without them, etc. So everybody demonstrates their reality. Yes.